Connected Homeschooling, Episode 3.
Welcome to the Connected Homeschooling Podcast, where we connect homeschooling families like yours with leaders, authors, speakers, and all-around interesting people who provide great conversations, tips, and advice. Now here's your host, Devin Dabney.
Hello, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Connected Homeschooling Podcast. I'm your host, Devin, and I'm pumped to bring you an encouraging, inspiring, and educational show. Sometimes through the world of social media, we're able to meet people who live in other cities, states, or even other countries, and we can develop relationships to support each other around our common beliefs. And that's how I met today's guest, Jackie Bledsoe. In this interview, we'll talk about homeschooling, freelance writing, food allergies, and more, so stay tuned. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Wear Your Prayer Apparel. This company provides t-shirts with cool designs such as the slogan, "It isn't easy being my wife's arm candy," and others with pictures of eye charts like you'd see at the optometrist's office. And on the inside of each shirt, there's a prayer that relates to the design on the front of the shirt. My friend Eric Dingler is offering listeners of this podcast free shipping by using the offer code HOMESCHOOL when you visit his site. So check them out at connectedhomeschooling.com/t-shirt. Now let's get to our featured interview with Jackie Bledsoe. Okay, today my guest is Jackie Bledsoe. He's somebody that I've been following online, and I figured he'd be a great person to bring on and connect with our connected homeschoolers. So Jackie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Devin. Thanks for having me. Really looking forward to talking.
So I've been able to find out a few things about you from following your blog and different things you've written online. But why don't you briefly take a few moments to just share with the audience a little bit about yourself and help us to connect with your story?
All right. Well, I've been blogging at JackieBledsoe.com for just over a year and a half. So I started last February of 2012, and it's been a really eye-opening and enlightening journey blogging. I've learned a lot about myself. I've connected with a lot of good people, such as yourself. It's just been really a great way for me to express myself and work through the things that I'm struggling with. And what I found out is there's a lot of other people that are having the same challenges and finding solutions to them through connecting with people online, which is what I'm doing, and I'm just sharing it with everybody else. I'm a husband, a father, been married 12 years. We have 3 kiddos. One is 13, one is 7, and the youngest is 3. So you can just imagine our household is pretty fun. And then we homeschool as well. So I work from home. My wife homeschools our kids. So Monday through Friday, it can be pretty exciting around the Bledsoe household.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. And as part of the show, we like to get our guests to share a scripture or a quote, something that would be encouraging to the listeners. And so I'll let you just take it away with that.
Okay. My scripture is Joshua 1:6, and that's just my favorite Bible verse of all time. Our youngest child is named Joshua because of just the impact that the book of Joshua has had on my life. And for those that aren't familiar, Joshua 1:6 says, "Be strong and courageous, for you are the one who will lead these people to possess all the land I swore to their ancestors I would give them." So it's at that time when Moses died and Joshua was taking over the leadership role with the people of Israel, and God was just encouraging him, letting him know that there's going to be challenges that you face, but nonetheless, be strong and courageous. So he's going to run into some people that are pretty strong. He's going to run into some big walls that they'll have to tear down, but God is telling him you're going to lead him. And I kind of look at that too in my family, as a family leader in my house, family as a leader in the community and at church, the sports teams that I coach, and even our homeschooling journey, that he's equipped me to lead some people. But during this journey, there's going to be some tough times, but my task is just to be strong and courageous and keep moving forward.
Okay, well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. You mentioned about some challenges, and a lot of times when we talk about homeschooling, there certainly can be some challenges. Why don't you share with us some of the, I guess, your homeschool journey? How did you get into homeschooling? How did you find out about homeschooling? Just enlighten our audience on how you got started with that.
Yeah, we started homeschooling with our oldest son. He's the middle child. He's 7. When he was 4, and when he was born, my wife we made a decision for her to leave corporate America and stay home with him. So in the process of doing that, she connected with a lot of other homeschooling moms, or a lot of other stay-at-home moms, and then later on we found some that were homeschooling. So our eyes were open to a different type of lifestyle, and then through that she connected with many homeschooling moms and homeschooling families. So we actually began the process of looking into it. It kind of piqued our interest. Early on, I was really gung-ho for it. She wasn't. And then it came to a point where I wasn't gung-ho for it. She was. And then right around the time that our son was 4, we kind of said, okay, maybe this is a viable option. We've always been open to different ways to educate our children and what was the best way for our family, and then for each individual child. Our oldest child, our daughter, she started out at a private school, our church. We actually entertained Montessori. We didn't go there, but then finally we moved into what we thought was a good school district, and we took her out of our church's school because of the distance that it took for us to travel, and put her in a public school. She did pretty well there, while at the same time we were starting a homeschool group that my wife and her other girlfriends started with their kids, just bringing together curriculums, bringing together different ideas. One of the moms had a church, her church opened up for us so that they came there each week, I think on a daily basis, and met, went through school, learned a lot. During that process, we discovered some other homeschooling curriculums and communities, which is what we're doing now. We're part of the Classical Conversations community, which is a Christian community that follows the classical education model. So we've been doing that since this is our 4th year with that. So basically we jumped in there, trial and error, started learning some things, connected with some people, and now we're full-fledged. We brought our daughter home from public school 2 years ago. This is her beginning of her 2nd year of homeschool. Actually, her 3rd year of homeschool, I'm sorry. So she started her 3rd year, so now we're a complete homeschooling family, and we're loving it. Challenging, but it's fun.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you guys are involved in classical conversations, and I guess what other curriculum choices do you have, or what are some of the products or materials that you use?
Yeah, I knew I should have had my wife on here. She's more familiar with it. But we use classical conversation. That's the foundational curriculum that we use. So that's our base. With math, we use Saxon. And I think she uses another supplement, I think from the Well-Trained Mind for language or English, the writing. I'm not sure. We've also used, as part of the Classical Conversations curriculum, IEW, which is the Institute for Excellence in Writing. That's been really helpful for our daughter. And she, when she was in public school, she was in their Gifted and Talented program, straight A student. So when we first took her out, I think it was easy. So for what we were teaching, she's like, okay, we weren't challenging her. So the IEW, the tools that we were using with them and some of the other tools that we use are really helpful for us and getting us up to speed with our middle school age daughter. But primarily, Classical Conversations and Saxon are 2 big ones, and then my wife supplements some other things here and there with our younger kids, but that would be a question that I had to defer to her. Maybe another interview.
Yeah, and I'd probably be in the same boat if you were to ask me. So she's using a lot of different things. So back to homeschooling, what are some of the challenges that you faced? A lot of times it isn't easy, and just like you mentioned about transitioning your daughter into homeschooling and creating things that would be as challenging as she needed, what are some of the other challenges that you may have run into, or even opposition from other people? It's not really a common thing that we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. There comes opposition many times, and we've had some challenges where some of our family haven't agreed with the choice of homeschool, but we have within our own 4 walls, so we've continued to move forward. And you hear the challenges with socialization, and okay, your kids are, most people think homeschooling kids are locked up in the house all day, but one of our challenges has been the opposite of that. It's actually that our social calendar is so heavy at times, it becomes overwhelming. And I guess you can say that is part of the homeschooling thing, that you don't necessarily have everything right at the school and right at the community, so you are a part of a bunch of different activities, extracurriculars, and groups, and sometimes that may cause you to travel, and things like that. But that's been a challenge. But overall, I would say the biggest challenges that we face are the same challenges that we face every single day. One, to just making sure that we are proactive enough, that we are disciplined enough to do the things that's necessary to keep us moving forward, keep our kids continuing to grow, be challenged like what we faced with our daughter, where she was kind of at one level and we weren't there yet with what we were teaching her. And one big one is just the fear and doubt that you can do it. I think most parents are fearful that I'm not qualified. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't do this. I don't have this degree. But we believe that God has called us to be the primary teachers of our children. So that does not exclude school and education. That includes that. So with that being said, that is a big stumbling block that I think many parents have to get over. Once you get over that, just like any other fear, doubt, trying to do anything else new, then I think you can face any challenge and figure a way around it. Just like we teach our kids to problem solve during homeschool, we're problem solving as parents as well.
That's great. And I'm glad you mentioned about the socialization there, and also just some of the challenges, because a lot of times people feel like they really can't do it. They think they have to be certified, or that there's something that they need to be equipped with in order to teach their children. And I've just seen over and over again that it really is being devoted to it and problem solving and doing the things that you need to do in order to reach your children. So lastly, on the homeschooling front, what are some of the extracurricular activities or other things that you participate in? I know with Classical Conversations there's a community there, but are there any other communities that your family participates in?
Yes, definitely. One big one that we do, and it is kind of a staple, we actually rearrange our Wednesdays because it's a program called Awana, the Awana clubs. Our kids love it. We started out a few years ago with our oldest two, and then we've actually, now everybody's involved. My wife is a director at one of the clubs, I think the second grade club. I am a table leader for the 3 and 4 year olds. But it has just been a blessing to our family. It has really equipped our kids to share the gospel first and foremost, and just to have some other friends that might not look exactly like they do to associate with, but still have that same common bond. Of course, we have sports that we are also involved with. Our son plays baseball. Our 7-year-old plays baseball, plays in football season right now. So that stops, he's going to go into basketball. Our daughter has been in soccer, track. She's basketball. She's also into acting and drama. So there's an annual play, Upon This Rock play that happens every Easter. She's in that play, so they start practicing later on this year. They'll practice for 4 or 5 months. There's a ton of stuff. Like I said, our social calendar, there's points during the year where our social calendar gets overwhelming, and we're just looking and waiting for that break. But the biggest one I would say that we do on a consistent basis is all the sports and Awana. And then we add some other things here and there based on what the kids' interests are and what they're really wanting to do at the time. Okay.
Yeah, I really agree that your social calendar can be full of all those activities.
Right, and that was just for the kids. That didn't even include us. We don't get to do anything.
Well, to transition here, we've talked about the homeschooling journey, and also just some of the things that your family has done as activities as a family. But let's talk about you for a moment. Talk about some of the things that I've seen out there, just following your writing for a while. Just share with us some of the ventures that you're involved in. I know you do a lot of writing, and just share with us what you have going on.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I've been blogging for my site about 1.5 years, a little longer than that. I started into blogging maybe 2 years ago, with a venture that didn't pan out, but it included a blogging. But it was something that we were trying to do. We thought that we could make it work. It didn't work out. But during that process, I met some people and connected with some good bloggers and learned a lot about what's going on online. So since then, I've discovered that I really enjoy writing a lot. So that is really a passion of mine now, and I really enjoy writing about the content that I've been blessed to create online. Content that helps families, that helps encourage husbands and wives, that helps dads be better dads, parents be better parents, and just overall presents a positive image of family and marriage and everything that can come with that. That includes being a sports dad. So I coach my kids' sports. That includes being a homeschooling dad. So that's all fun, but it's also opened the doors to other writing opportunities. I write for BMWK, which is an acronym for Black and Married with Kids, which is the largest African-American site of its kind on the web, set up by Lamar and Ronnie Tyler. And that has been a wonderful blessing, just in connecting with people who are just like myself, wanting to share a positive image of marriage and family online. That's opened up doors. It's taught me a lot and reached a whole lot of people. A lot of people have been impacted by what I've written. That has opened the door for me to write for a Disney site, so which is cool because my kids love Disney everything. So Babel.com is a site that I write for as well. I write for a site called CoachUp.com, which is my portion of writing on that is for the sports parenting side. So CoachUp is a site that connects private coaches with athletes at all levels, lower levels, high talent, high quality levels as well. I write about my experience in sports parenting, which is kind of crazy today because sports today is a lot different than when we grew up, so it's a little more serious. So I try to keep it where the focus is the family and not necessarily trying to get your kid to be the next superstar, things like that. I also do some ghostwriting, some family sites, some very influential sites that help families and encourage families as well. So it's fun. I'm working on something now myself, finishing up my manifesto. It's called the Family Leaders Manifesto, and it should be published sometime in August. And I'll be giving it away on my site for free. So those that want to come check back with me in a week or two, you can grab that. But it's just basically a call to family leaders like myself. A lot of dads, a lot of men are leaders in the community and at church and at work. But we sometimes forget that our first leadership role is at home with our family, with our wives, and with our kids. So I want to encourage and inspire other men to make sure that they're taking that role of being a family leader seriously and doing everything they can to be the best at it. So those are some good things. And I'm also starting we'll be launching a video series soon. I don't have all the information together for that, but it's basically going to be talking to other couples about how they make their marriage work and about how they are relating to their kids and spending time as a family.
Okay. Now, I've actually discovered some of these sites because of things you've written. I had actually never heard of Black and Married with Kids, even though it's so popular. I actually found it because I was following your writing, and then also the Babel.com and some of these other sites that you're putting out great content on. And I've seen you do actually some interviews similar to this. One of those was relating to food allergies. And so I didn't realize, I guess, having children, right now we have 5 children, soon to be 6 children. And so we didn't realize that, thank you, we didn't realize that food allergies were so popular. And we just started to come across more and more information and see that it was something that was growing amongst families, and it was something that you really had to consider. My first experience was with a gentleman. I went to a conference for my job, and there was a guy there was the leader of this organization sitting at the table, and it was so serious that he had an EpiPen right there with him, and he was walking the guy next to him through the steps of what to do in case he should have some kind of reaction. And so I really took it seriously, and seeing even some of our friends who have children with food allergies. You had the opportunity to interview Jerome Bettis, and I saw something about that, and then also on another Google Hangout. So share with us just some of your experiences with that. I know some of our listeners may have children with food allergies, or they may have them themselves.
Yeah, I've got some awesome opportunities to talk to some great people and share some stuff, so I'm definitely humbled by that, even on this. Yeah, the food allergies is pretty serious, and just like you, we didn't know how serious it was until we were affected by it. And all three of our children at one point have had some sort of emergency room visit reaction because of something that we didn't even know they were allergic to at the time. So our daughter, she is allergic to ibuprofen, which, we had no idea. She was in kindergarten at the time when she was at our church's school, wasn't feeling well, and they gave her Motrin. Wow. And by the time we got there, she looked like she was puffed up, like she had been in a boxing match. Her face, her ears, everything on her body was swollen externally. Fortunately, nothing internally was. So we had to rush her to the hospital, to the ER, and they gave her some stuff to help her out. So we know not to give her that. Our 7-year-old was in Walmart, and we had a feeling that he might be allergic to peanuts because he had gotten some peanuts on his mouth and kind of broke out a little bit, something minor. But we didn't know if he was allergic to any other nuts, and he had a sample in Walmart that we found out later had some walnuts or pecans or something in there, and it was a serious emergency room visit where his throat started to swell up, he couldn't breathe, and we got some bad advice from our pediatrician at the time to not to rush to the hospital. When later on, fortunately, they were in Walmart, they went to whatever. There was a medical person in Walmart, and they said, yes, you need to get to the hospital. So took him, said something similar with our 3-year-old, who actually spent 48 hours in the hospital because he had some issues with asthma and allergic reactions that triggered and just basically compounded everything. So we got a chance to talk to that with that hangout, and there were some parents on there that had some really serious allergies, and I'm learning that people, like you said, adults are having to be prepared, and you have to educate people. And when I spoke to Jerome Bettis about it, that was his biggest point, is like you need to educate those around, get educated yourself, but also educate those around you in the event of emergency, and so they know not to give you that. Some parents, they send their kids with a snack, and the snack that's labeled, he can only eat this food. And you can't get creative and try to supplement, give something else. You can't have nothing from your kitchen or anything else. This is the food. So I don't know where it's coming from, why it's so big now, when there were very few kids when I was growing up that had them, but it's serious, and it's changed our lifestyle where we have to, we have nuts, certain nuts in a certain cabinet in our house, but we're very protective of everything else because our boys are allergic to all nuts.
Wow. And I'm glad you mentioned that, and then bringing this closer to home with, especially with homeschooling families, a lot of times you have parents who you may babysit or have a play date with other families, and if you're not conscious of what's going on as far as food allergies or what they can and can't have, you may accidentally give the child something that cause them harm. And I thought about it actually, just thinking about interviewing you and looking at this topic, because in the next couple of weeks we're actually going to be just babysitting for another family that homeschools. And one of our questions was, do they have any food allergies? And I guess before that I wouldn't have really thought about it. It's just, okay, they're coming over, you give them some food and they'll be satisfied. But you don't want to have an emergency room trip just right. Because you didn't do your due diligence and try to find out what's going on and whether they have anything you should be concerned about.
Right.
And so thanks for sharing on that. And you mentioned that you're going to have a manifesto coming out pretty soon. That's going to be in October. Yeah. We'll be on the lookout for that. And the last thing that we'll do here is we have a lightning round of sorts where I ask 7 questions, and the segment is called 7 with Devin. And I'll just ask you these quick questions, and then you'll be able to share with our audience your best answer for the questions. So I'll just start at the top, and we'll go from there.
Right.
What is the top free resource that you would recommend for listeners?
Top free resource I would recommend is Google.
Google.
I live by it. Anything I need, I go to Google. Now, if you're talking of an app, I would say Evernote.
Okay. of course, I'm a big Google fan and also an Evernote user. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't utilize fully, or they don't get into it. But I think a lot of homeschooling families especially could benefit from it, because they could keep up with information or resources for their families. And so I definitely recommend that, and I'll link to it in the show notes for this episode. On the other end of the spectrum, what would be something that's a paid resource that you'd recommend?
Yeah, one thing that I got a lot of value out of recently is Audible.com. I signed up for a free month and got that, and they basically give you a credit, or depends on which one you sign up with, for an audiobook every month. And that was, I like to read, but I got out of my reading because it was carrying a book here. And then sometimes, and I recently got a Kindle, I was reading it on that, but I run and different things like that. The audiobook was it. I spent a lot of time in the car, spent a lot of time running and working out. I got Audible.com, and I just started to devour books. And then I also had, some of them had a link to a Kindle, a connection to the Kindle version as well, so I could keep track on both ends, my Kindle book as well as my audio book. Okay,
well, that's a great one. And I've been hearing more and more about Audible, and something that, especially if you're reading a lot of books or you have some resources that you want to check out, it might be easier to listen to it than carrying around a book, or just having to have that physical copy there.
Yeah, definitely.
Now let's take it back to the beginning of your homeschooling journey. If you had one wish and you could just start over with the whole thing, what would be your first step with starting over?
I would say to start our oldest sooner. We started her, she finished fifth, she went through first grade private school, second through fifth public school, and I believe she's done great. She's done great there, but I believe that there were so many things that we could have gained, and she could have gained, if we would have started homeschool when she was younger. Outside of that, everything that we've done, it's all come together, and we're learning and continuing to grow, which is kind of our MO. But sometimes I wish we would have started her a little bit earlier, so we had a little bit more experience and she had a little bit more opportunities to grow in this homeschooling journey.
Okay. Now, you write a lot about family leadership. What would be your best advice for dads in homeschooling families?
I would say just to find your place where you can be involved. And each dad is going to be different based on their work schedule, based on their availability and things like that. But every dad can be involved at some point. If it's just checking the papers, if it's showing up at the field trips, whatever it may be. Our daughter's first year in homeschooling, I was her teacher at home, and then her teacher and her tutor in the community as well when we met once a week. And I was very, very engaged. That helped me. Now, each year since then, my schedule and work has changed a little bit, so I've been less involved, but I want to get back to that. So I would just pick your pleasure, find out which one you would like to work at best, and just be consistent about it. Whether it's one child, one subject, or one particular thing about the homeschooling piece, just make sure that you find that thing and your kids know that you're a part of that portion of it at least.
Okay. Now I'll ask two questions at once here. What has been your greatest reward, and then what has been your greatest challenge with homeschooling?
The greatest reward is just being able to spend that time with our kids and watching them learn and experience things that we would have never got to see had they been in public or private school. There's a lot of just small things that you see and catch that, when they're in regular school, we experience both of it. We kind of get the after effect, and we miss out a lot, but we haven't missed out on much with the homeschooling journey. The greatest challenge is really just exposing your, sin, your fault, your shortcomings yourself, because you see it in your kids, and then it is reflected immediately upon them. If you're a person that commits to stuff and doesn't finish it, that's going to show up. If you're a person that continually runs late, that's going to show up. So it's going to expose you to yourself and going to challenge you, because you're going to be like, man, whether you see your kids do it or whether you just see the effect that it's having on the homeschooling and the family itself. That's been my biggest challenge. I'm like, I got to get myself together.
Okay, and I agree. And our last question in this segment is, what is a unique characteristic about you that people don't know, or a talent or something that you have that not many people know about?
I don't know if it's a talent or not, but I am, I guess, at home, I'm a little bit different than I am in public. So I am very, very silly at home. So I think I'm more reserved in public, and at home, I'm probably a completely different person. So my kids see a different side of me, the comedian, the dancer, the singer, all that stuff that nobody else gets to see. So that's why I say I don't know if it's a talent, but that would be it.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing. And the last thing we'll do before we close out this interview is each week we try to offer value to the listeners and offer some type of resource of the week. And I know that on your very active blog you have something that's a resource people can pick up. Why don't you just share for a couple minutes about that resource?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, if you go to my blog, JackieBledsoe.com, that's my first name, last name.com, I actually have an ebook that I offer for you to sign up to receive my emails and my updates that I wrote last year. So it was my first official published book, I guess you would say, but the title of the book is 13 Simple Ways to Change Your Life. And it is based on 13 principles or ways that I looked at that are very important in your life. So things that you can do or be. So be loving, be truthful, be joyous, be diligent, be patient, be humble, live right, have faith, be courageous, be kind, be disciplined, be wise, and be strong. So those principles or those different ways, there's 13 of them. And each week, 52 weeks, I put out within the book an inspirational, encouraging quote that is supported or backed up by scripture. So Monday comes, week one, you print it out, write it on your whiteboard, hang it on your bathroom mirror, whatever you want to do, and let that scripture and that quote inspire you and encourage you to be better, to change your life for that particular week. So that is offered for free on my blog now. Once my Family Leaders Manifesto is published, then this ebook is going to go away. So I guess now it's a limited time to get it. Got a few weeks to get it before it goes away. But I think it'll be helpful. It's been helpful for me. I was big on, it started because I started writing a quote on a whiteboard each week. And that quote was my driving force to guide me to focus on. I just needed one thing that would always bring me back to a point where I was continuing to move forward to change for the better. And it came out in this book. So really good resource. Check it out. Won't be there long. But just, that's on the top right. If you go to my website, there's an offer that says get your free ebook on the right side towards the top, right above the fold. So jump on it, grab it, and share it. Hopefully it'll be a blessing.
Okay. Now, before we go, why don't you share what's the best way for our listeners to reach you or to find out more about you?
Okay. Of course, the website, JackieBledsoe.com. And you can also find me on Twitter and various social media platforms. Twitter is J Bledsoe Jr. So it's my first initial, last name Bledsoe, and then JR. And you can find me on Instagram at J Bledsoe Jr. You can find me on Twitter at J Bledsoe Jr. You can find me on Pinterest at J Bledsoe Jr. And then you can also find me on Facebook at Jackie Bledsoe Jr. So any of those sites you can connect with me. You can also read my writing at Babel.com. You can read my writing at blackandmarriedwithkids.com. You can read my writing at coachup.com. And of course the page, JackieBledsoe.com. So connect socially. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love you to check out my writing. Let me know what you think. Leave some blog comments. Shoot me an email. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see me write about or talk about. And it'd be a good connection.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and appreciated having you on this podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, connected homeschoolers, thank you for joining me on another episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the interview with today's guest, Jackie Bledsoe. Be sure to visit his blog and connect with him on social media. And if you'd like the show notes for today's episode, visit connectedhomeschooling.com/episode 3. For our Louisiana listeners, last week I mentioned the Louisiana Empowering Families Conference with Colin and Nancy Campbell from Above Ruby's Ministries. I encourage you to register for the conference and check out connectedhomeschooling.com/family conference to secure your family's spot and also join other families for a life-changing experience. Also, don't forget to check out Connected Homeschooling on iTunes and feel free to leave a 1 or 2 sentence review and give it a rating. This helps other people discover the podcast. If you haven't joined us on Facebook yet or suggested our page to homeschooling friends or parents, please do so at facebook.com/connectedhomeschooling. Tune in next time for another great episode where we'll connect you with the people, resources, and the tools you need to make your homeschool a success.